Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Naomi Reinhardt. I'm the Chief Development Officer of the America-Israel Friendship. I'm based here in New York, and I'm thrilled to be opening this wonderful webinar today. I've been wanting to do this webinar for a while, having grown up very close to Annette and Mike Miller in Boston, and seeing Annette perform in Boston and in the Burke series and being a true fan of her work. So I'm thrilled to hear her today, as well as the other panelists. And also really happy to be collaborating in partnership with the Jewish Arts Collaborative of Boston. We've done another webinar with them in the past, and I hope to do more. They've been a true wonderful organization in Boston that highlights culture, the arts, theater, music, food, anything you can think of. And I know that my friends and family in Boston try to engage with them as much as possible in the various programs that they have in the city. And I will turn it over to Wayne Firestone, our executive director, who will moderate this panel. Thanks, everyone, for watching us today.
Thanks, Naomi. It was a real treat last week for us to actually be on Broadway, or at least walk around Broadway with all the excitement and the return to live performance. And we're going to do our best shot to begin to showcase more of the amazing talent, of the amazing creativity that is emerging from Israel. Before we jump in today's program, I want to put out a question or two to the audience. Let's start with, what's the last live performance that you remember being at and have fond memories of? If you could probably date, like me, I remember exactly the last show on Broadway, and it was great to return to that this past week. So let us know in the chat the last show you were in. And a big theme we're going to discuss on today's production is adaptation and what has happened in the COVID period with the need to adapt shows to the Zoom format and other kinds of streaming. So I am curious as well, for anyone who's seen a production that was adapted and perhaps couldn't have a run because of the various restrictions, but was able to get a second breath and continue to breathe life into the production with some kind of digital production. So if you saw something that was inspiring or well done, we hope you'll share that with others here. And whether you have or you haven't, we hope at the end of this program, you will go track down this production, because it actually premiered live this week. And we're grateful to the Jewish Arts Collaborative for working with us and giving us the opportunity to share a little bit of the story behind the story. I'm going to begin with just to introduce to you a few of the creative artists who are involved in this. I'll call it a co-production over the Atlantic, because we have a director here, Lilia Levitina, who herself made her way from Minsk to Boston, and when she arrived in Boston, brought her theater experience from the rich experience of Europe, brought it to the United States and brought it to stages here. She is the founder of Basement on the Hill in Boston. She has produced works of David Mamet. She has produced a one-woman show that chronicles the journey of a Russian Jewish immigrant traversing and making a journey across the Atlantic. And tonight you're going to see the creativity and adaptation of something that she has been working on for some time now. We're going to be greeted by Ofek Cohen, who's joining us today from Tel Aviv. Ofek is a veteran of cinema and TV and the stage, and he's a graduate from 2017 from the Institute of Education for the Union of the Kibbutzim. And maybe if we get lucky, we can hear some stories about the rich cultural life of the Kibbutzim and how that is contributing to the vibrant creative arts in Israel today. And finally, you got a preview from Naomi that this shidduch was initially made by our good friend Annette Miller, a veteran star of Broadway and off-Broadway productions. Some of you probably have seen her as the originator of the role of Golda in Golda's Balcony when it previewed before it went off to Broadway. And if you're looking for something new, obviously you want to see her in the role she's playing here, but also be on the lookout for those of you who are Netflix fans for something called Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio. And Annette will probably be looking up because I think she's a little bit smaller than Leonardo DiCaprio is, but she's appeared on stages with some very large figures of the contemporary theater scene today. So we're looking forward to hearing from Annette about this unique production and what got her so excited about it. So why don't we start just with a little bit of an overview and visual orientation with the trailer from the production. And as you'll see, it's a Zoom production, captured. A lot of the rehearsals were all done on Zoom. We're going to see now just a clip, and then I'm going to have Lilia introduce a longer segment that will give you a real flavor for what the play is about. And then we're going to use the back end of our hour together to discuss and hear from our panelists and answer some of your questions. So why don't we go ahead and see if we can pull up that first link.
You say he offered you a violin made by Giuseppe Scarampella he bought at an auction?
Good morning, Esther. Yaakov, meet Esther Greenbaum.
Shalom, Esther.
Mrs. Greenbaum.
Okay, shalom, Mrs. Greenbaum. I am not afraid of Wagner. I refuse to be a victim of him. I'm not afraid of Wagner, and I will be his master.
No! You want Wagner! Go to Beirut! Yaakov, you will not play Wagner.
So, Lilia, you can breathe a little bit now because your premiere took place and your baby is out in the world now. I know this is really a labor of love. So could you just tell us a little bit about what the audience is going to see now? The topic, You Will Not Play Wagner, is one that generates a lot of emotion, a lot of strong opinions. We've heard and already received questions from our audience in advance, people weighing in already on what they think. So I'd love to hear from everyone about what it feels like afterwards. But first, just set up this first segment for us so the audience will have an idea of what they're looking at.
So what you're going to look at is the middle section of the film, of the movie. You've seen a little segment of it. It is when the three characters meet in person on Zoom, our in-person way of communicating with each other for quite a while. For the first time, the three characters are the young Israeli conductor who gets into the final of the conductor's competition and decides to shake the status quo and announces his intention to play Wagner in the finals. Annette Miller plays Esther, the sponsor of this competition that has been going on for 10 years, and she's a Holocaust survivor. So for her, Wagner has a very personal and visceral meaning and connection. And the third character, Morris Shapiro, he is the manager of the competition. So the first time they meet, each in their, call it echo chamber or Zoom environment, and they collide for the first time. So you're going to see the core of the argument, the logical the emotional, the pros and cons. Answering that question, you will not, whether one should be for or against playing Wagner. One thing I would like you to pay special attention, because it's easy to overlook, is the musical interaction between the characters, if you can catch it, because the argument is quite intense and will hold your attention by itself. That's it.
Thanks very much, Lilia. The segment will run for about 20 minutes, and then we'll proceed with our discussion afterwards, after everybody's had a chance to get a little bit of a taste. Thanks, Lilia.
Meet Esther Greenbaum.
Shalom, Esther.
Mrs. Greenbaum.
Okay, shalom, Mrs. Greenbaum.
You don't know me?
No, but neither you me.
Mm-hmm. So we need time, huh? The next few hours, whether we can overcome all of these issues. Forgive me, I had a dreadful night.
I hope nothing serious.
Serious. My bones ache, my joints feel like a rusty train, not to speak of my ankles. Now there's a severe headache, but no, nothing serious. Comes with the territory, huh? But thank you for asking. Your Mahler, huh? Yes, your Mahler was memorable. One of the best I've heard. You are a conductor exceptional. So I find it strange that you should wish to stake so much on one performance, one competition, huh? Perhaps I ask myself, you have a strange sense of humor.
No. Not for this. Here, humor has no relevance.
Except here it could. No, it will, in all probability, ruin your chances, because I assure you, it will not be tolerated. Not by the general public, not while Israel remains home to a single Holocaust survivor. They defied Meta in 81, and not much has changed. And there's something else. Personally, and don't get me wrong, I have no particular interest in your career, even though undoubtedly you have impressive talent.
Toda.
As have many others. Against that, I've only one concern: the successful completion of this competition. This competition now occupies an honorable position on the cultural calendar. Serious culture, serious music.
May I say something?
It's a democracy.
Honestly, I find competitions, the meaning, the concept of it. I have a little interest in this competition, or for that matter, for any competition.
So you want to destroy it?
Yes. Why did you enter?
Because I assure you, it can happen.
Believe what you wish, but I also have no agenda, no crusade. To conduct is my life. And yes, I believe I'm good. And also I believe that if or not I will win, out there I will make it. Others have. And sure, competitions can be useful to focus an audience, but not the only way to open doors. So, let's say that I'm prepared to believe in myself, placing a little bet on my future.
Now you are confident.
But watch it. It can be overbearing.
So far, I can't complain.
Perhaps.
Yes, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Maybe. But if I were you, I'd weigh confidence against brashness.
Brashness, what is that?
Google it. You'll learn something. Meantime, we're waiting.
For?
Your choice.
Wagner.
You have yet to explain.
When you're fully aware, it cannot be accepted.
Oh, sure. What a pity to require discussion, never mind explanation. Okay, you want to know why Wagner? 2 reasons. First, why not? What acceptable reason? To not play Wagner here is a tradition. And that's it. And a stupid one, no more. Just you will not play Wagner. And in the rules, I've read them. There is nothing. So it's my choice. Any major composer, and Wagner is that, a major composer.
Perhaps. But whether I personally agree is not the issue.
You are wrong. It is the issue, the whole issue. With respect, Mr. Shapiro, these rules, these parameters were set by you. I did what I was told, what I was asked. I followed them. I chose a major composer. I don't know, if I had chosen Glinka or Mussorgsky, who, by the way, never hid their dislike for Jews, would there be a problem? And their music is not Wagner. So too, it is great music. Wagner is unique for any conductor, a challenge different from any other composer.
So is Brahms, Sibelius, and Beethoven?
Yes, but we are not talking about Beethoven, Sibelius, or Brahms.
Correct. We are talking about a lowlife, a horrible anti-Semite.
Yes, but even there is a dispute. I'm sure you know he had many Jewish friends.
Sure. Some of his best friends were Jews.
Herman Levy, you know of him?
Of course.
The premiere of Parsifal, he conducted.
And a pallbearer at Wagner's funeral, I know.
And Joseph Rubinstein?
Yes, the pianist.
He lived with Wagner for years. Killed himself when Wagner died. Oh, and his publisher, another Jew.
About Levy, I know. A pathetic sycophant who allowed Wagner to wipe his boots on him and came back for more. Some relationship. Loyalty from Levy, humiliation from Wagner. And there were others, huh? Court Jews. So, he had some Yiddish friends. Are you therefore saying we must ignore his writing? His influence on Hitler? Was a great Third Reich.
Influence? What influence? 50 years before Hitler, he was dead.
Of course, no direct influence, face to face. But you must know what Hitler said. If you wish to understand the philosophy of the Third Reich, you need only to listen to Wagner. Is this now inconsequential because he forged some sort of relationship with some self-doubting Jews? Perhaps it was to his advantage, huh? Perhaps they themselves hated their own Jewishness. Of those there are plenty, huh? We have them amongst us today. Can you explain it?
No, I can't. And I don't need to because it has no bearing on his music. Sure, he wrote some terrible stuff, I know. Das Judentum in der Musik, Jewishness in music, this I know.
In which he spoke of Jewish composers as worms, parasites, feeding on the body of German art and called for a solution to the Jewish problem? Sound familiar?
Yes, words, horrible, anti-Semitic, of course, but anti-Semitic music? How can that be? Are you religious, Miss Greenbaum?
Why?
Are you familiar with the Alter Rabbi? You know Chabad?
Of course.
Well then, Chabad's first rabbi, a wise man, he said that speech is the quill of the heart and melody is the quill of the soul. For music is music, the ultimate gift, and to be judged only for that. Some good, some bad, but not reflective of the politics of the composer. It's music. It's beyond bigotry and prejudice. And such things, how can you identify it on the pages of the manuscript? I can't. I can only acknowledge what I hear. So, was Hitler inspired by Wagner music or Wagner? And should that reflect the quality of his work? Anyway, it says that this Grand Führer, this piece of shit, was pleased with Strauss and Lehar, Franz Lehar.
Yes, that's true. Hitler enjoyed Lehar. In Paris, he encouraged his operettas for propaganda, nothing more. But to compare him to Wagner in Hitler's esteem, how?
That Hitler would have the same regard for the Merry Widow as the Ring? Please! How pathetically simplistic.
Why? Because you wish it to be complicated?
What I wish is irrelevant. It is far more complex.
I don't believe that.
Well, believe what you wish. It is, and you know it. It's in the things you overlook.
Which are?
Your impassioned speech about his goddamn music is only half the equation. Do me a favor. You harp on the music, but you ignore the libretto, the text that Wagner himself wrote for all his operas.
Sure, of course, and you are right. If there is any references to hatred for Jews, that is where to find them. In the text, where else? But you know what? Examining his operas, all 13, there is nothing. Not a single direct reference for a Jew. Suggestions and stereotypes, perhaps. I know Albrecht the Dwarf was vile and short and hunchback, ugly with a big nose, a revolting character of a Jew. But this country sends a company to London to perform The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare's most anti-Semitic play. And Chopin, Linz, how many have we staged already? Hundreds? Thousands? Have you read their writings? Horrible.
Have you finished?
With my deepest respect, Miss Greenbaum, the fact is, it's been oversimplified for years. Reduced to something common to make it easier to understanding.
Simplified? What? How?
Anti-Semitism, Jew hatred.
What?
Call it what you wish, but it's not simple anti-Semitism.
Simple anti-Semitism? What is that? There is no such thing, let me assure you. Not by my experience. Is that what this is? Is that what you're saying? A simple condition? About the flu?
No, of course not.
Well then?
Well, you know what I mean.
No. Don't assume to know what I know. What I know tells me it's irrational, beyond understanding.
Irrational? Any more irrational than playing Carmina Burana by Karl Orff? A devoted Nazi, and no one objects.
Anyhow, you contradict yourself. I say it's complicated, you say it's not. Now you say it's been oversimplified, so it must be complicated. So which is it, for Christ's sake? It can't be both.
Okay, this is the thing, and this is what I believe. I believe when it is the reason, when irrationality becomes the reason, arguments become simplistic. And that's wrong. Like when you apply it to everything, even music. Banning music does nothing. Nothing to stop the hatred. And how can it? The ring should contribute any more pain to a Jew than a Mercedes driving through the streets of Tel Aviv. And shit, look around. There is enough of them. It makes no sense. And I refuse to be a part of such thinking.
Well, I am sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings. But what and how you think has little relevance to what's going on here. A competition, nothing else. Not a platform for those who wish to change the fucking world. For that, there are other avenues. And if you want, I'll suggest a few. But this ain't one.
There are many, Yaakov. A great many who disagree with your reasoning.
Here, of course. What else?
Israel has thousands of survivors who deserves their peace without torment. You view the music in isolation. Benign operas, no mention of Jews. In fact, yes. Hitler spoke of Wagner, but about him hardly wrote a word. Strange, yes. Contrary to what we'd expect. So how do we explain this? And here, against what I have said, I still argue for the ban of his music because, young man, I recognize that music, even without words, can bear an idea. Plant its foundation with the psyche of a nation. It's no different. Wave a banner or shout kills a Jew. For me, his is not just music. It's the bearer of a message, clearly understood by those who revere his genius. There are many. Many who recognize this danger and have lived through the consequences. And yes, I am one. So I have reason. Good reason.
Of course. Anyone who bears a number had a good reason.
I understand you, Jakob. But then, I wonder if you will understand me when I tell you that this number is for me a symbol of pride.
Pride.
You find that strange?
I'm sorry, Miss Greenbaum, but for me, those tattoos are symbol of submission, subservience. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how I see it.
Yes, I know. For you, it symbolizes everything you despise, huh? Weakness, capitulation, even slavery. Like cattle, branded with a number, then herded for slaughter. But that's not my view, Jakob. Yes, I bears the number of the 1,000-year Reich, long gone. But I am here, still here. I could have been someone, something else, but just a number, but no. I am proud of who I am. So, no doubt, you have your issues. That I understand. For all of us, it never ends.
And it won't. It won't unless you will remove yourself from that. Unless you will create a new paradigm. Redefine your existence, yours and those around you. However, how do we stop seeing ourselves as victims? I am not afraid of Wagner. I refuse to be a victim of him. I'm not afraid of Wagner, and I will be his master.
So, you're saying we simply abandon? Destroy the memories? Wipe them somehow from our consciousness? Are you saying that we forget? Or that, and also forgive? Or do we forgive but not forget? And if so, what? Explain. Why should we be so magnanimous? Is that what is expected of us, huh? Or is that what we demand of ourselves? Well, let me tell you, Yaakov, I will never forget. No, nor will I ever forgive. Never. I have no such expectation, and more. Would it not be easier for me to live without these horrid dreams? These memories that play such vicious games in my head.
Look, I'm sorry.
You're sorry?
Yes, of course I am. It was never my intention. I know nothing about your past.
No, but understand, my past is irrelevant. Just one of thousands who survived, who experienced worse, huh? Much worse, right there around you, straight from the camps with nothing, less than nothing, to a new country that all too often, to its shame, failed to even bid them welcome. So them is weak. A danger, huh? A danger, yes, to the spirit of the new Jew who would not give 1 inch to anyone ever again. Never again. No submission, no surrender, no gas. And let me say it so you clearly hear. No, Wagner. You, Yaakov, will not play Wagner. Not in this competition. What happens elsewhere, I can't control, and no doubt the time will come when they will just forgive or just no longer care. Where people like me become an obstacle to what you see as progress. It's already happening. No! You want Wagner! Go to Beirut!
Esther, please. It's enough.
No! Why should I not say what I feel?
Don't do this, please. It's enough.
No, you're right. It's not worth. But you, Yaakov, you will not play Wagner.
So, let me put it plainly. If you insist on playing Wagner, you'll be tormenting, damaging a shitload of others who, for an equal shitload of reasons, don't want this music aired publicly. Surely that must be clear, even to you. For Christ's sake, are you not an empathetic Jew?
An empathetic Jew. Here at last, the inevitable question. Or what is a Jew? Or how this Jew, crazy Jew, get this idea to stand up to what torments him? מה זה השטויות האלה? מה אתה מתחיל לדבר איתי עכשיו על דברים? By when do you need my answer?
Tomorrow, midday, no later.
בסדר, so be it.
Wow. Okay. I've got to start, first of all, as we say in Hebrew, kapayim. It is amazing to be able to see fresh from the premiere a piece of this work. I have to start with Annette and Ofek. Just watching this, watching the two of you interacting, having created this powerful piece, very steeped in dialogue. You're seeing it now. I think Ofek for sure, but Annette, I think for the first time since it's been produced. Annette, what did it feel? How meaningful was this for you to be working on while many artists couldn't leave their homes, let alone actually participate in the art that you're trained for? What does this production mean to you?
Well, first of all, watching that is just exhausting all over again. So strange. I've not had this experience that often before, but I watched that in Ofek. I'm right back there, Lilia. It's so strange. Just can't shed it. I don't know. I was thinking that when I do a show on in a live theater, I go through the whole experience, and then I take my bow with my fellow actors and release some of that. But this is so strange because it's been in pieces, and then I get to see all of it, and then I have no place to go with it. I don't know. I don't know about you, Ofek. I find this absolutely emotionally draining to go through her life again. So I didn't know I would feel all this, and so continually. This is so amazing to me. It reaches such a core in her belief and in how we all can learn from the past, live with it, experience it, and move forward, and how. And I don't know how. I don't know how Esther moved forward with it, but she did, and so much so that it was when, as the movie proceeds, the play proceeds, she does get to find her past and open up something that she's been sitting on all these years. I guess that's the relief, but right now it's very difficult. And yes, I was thrilled to be able to do this. It was given to me as a play, and it was COVID time, and I was said, well, we can't do a play, but we could do this as a perfect argument, a perfect play to do for Zoom. And I asked Lilia what she thought of it, because I so respect her work, and she said yes. And I said, well, let's bring it to Jewish Arts. And so then began the process of adapting it. And we started together, the three of us, and then there was no doubt that Lilia had another whole vision besides the words, to tell the story visually as it has to be. And then it was all left in her hands. And nothing, by the way, got passed without Victor's, may he rest in peace, without his approval. They worked together beautifully, but Lilia can tell you that. Ofek, thank you so much.
So
I wish I
Ofek,
could keep a point of view, but I can't yet.
Ofek, watching you sitting there, I don't know if that was overlooking Jaffa or somewhere outdoors. There was a feel to your performance that just felt so natural and unforced, and it didn't seem to distract that you were not in the physical presence of these other people. You really seem to have adapted. And when you said "ma shtiot," sitting there, I felt all of your felt the frustration of your character and feeling this tension that the play has brought through. What did this mean to you as a young actor, or young Israeli actor, sort of bringing this story alive? I want to make sure we need your mic on.
Yeah, you hear me now? Sorry.
Very good. Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for hosting us. Yeah, about your question, it's a great story. It has a lovely both sides that speaking from their heart, and both of them are I don't know if equally right, but both of them feels right, and I was loving doing it with Lilia and Annette, and it was a great experience. And yes, I found a way to connect to what he feels, but I don't have this. I can say personally, I don't have this frustration. I think you can say in my life. I'm not feeling a victim, and I respect. I think I respect what Esther says a little bit more than what Yaakov says, but I understand Yaakov, and I understand he's willing to shake off these past and these feelings about being a victim and being all the time a weak Jewish, and it's a very interesting story for me. So I enjoyed it very much to act and playing that.
So Lilia, I know when we spoke beforehand, even though the title of the show, "You Will Not Play Wagner," is a statement. It's an imperative. It's some people think it's an invitation to a debate. Even some in our audience came here ready to debate whether we should play Wagner or not. But I think when we talked several times, this group beforehand, even though certainly the dramatic question of the production is in the headline. It's in the title of the play. I know you felt that that is not the main driving theme for this production, and why it was so important for you at this moment to actually have this performed in whatever way you could. Could you share more of your own motivation and your reflection now that it's out there?
Sure, thank you. When I first read Victor Gordon's play, there were two things that I absolutely loved. The impeccable, very rabbinical, logical argument on both sides, as much as it was emotional, Ofek. And another thing that I absolutely loved was an open-ended ending. I don't know if I'm giving it away, but Victor Gordon, in his play, he poses the question, and it sounds in the title as an imperative, but that dichotomy, yes or no, black or white, is not the result of the development of the character and the whole plot. So I invite you to watch the whole piece and see what this is about. For me, it was very personal because we all know where we stand politically in the United States, how divided we are, and how COVID and Zoom reality reinforced these divisions, because we stopped talking to people whom we don't agree. We spoke to those only and saw outside those who were our friends and our co-believers, and friendships got ruined, families fought, and so on and so forth. The division of the world, the black and white, the fall out of the middle, concerns me very much. And it is ironic that when we market this piece, we market it in the same dichotomy, because we strive on conflicts. Our narrative structure that is embedded in the human brain is a dramatic structure. We want that, and we reinforce conflict. Even in this presentation, even in the way we marketed it, even in the piece that I chose to show you as a segment, because it's very catching. It's very rewarding to feel righteous about your point of view. But what happens to us all as a result? And what we state here, or try at least to achieve, is that the only way that we can reach Tikkun Olam, Victor's line, that it belongs to Annette. The harmony of the world and the harmony of our own souls is by listening and hearing each other. That's how Esther got her therapy, or the release of all that, not all, but that's how she heals. That's how the world heals. Through the exchanges, when we transcend our differences and see each other as human beings. So that's what I was trying to convey through the whole piece. As much as it is based on a very visceral and very old and very bloody emotional argument of opposite opinions.
Well, the good news for theater lovers, like the thousands of people who will see this webinar, is that that good drama often involves existential and very visceral kind of conflict. And it's both good and bad news that there's a lot of that in Israel. Annette, you've had the privilege of playing some roles that deal with the nuance of an Israel that is often missed beyond the headlines of the conflicts. The raw emotion that is driving the strong views and ideologies of the many citizens from different places and with different backstories. What do you think people will be able to take away from this production to understand about Israel today through the lens of this particular conflict?
Wow, that's big. As I said, I just get so involved at this moment. So it's a little bit difficult. So as to what Lilia said, yes, if we could listen more, if we could listen to other more, this would be good. I tried as Esther to listen, but I had to tell him what I felt, and I had to hope that he heard me. And I think he does. And I think I hear him at the end. And that is a beginning. Yes, I pray that he will not play it, but I hear him. I understand that the world must move on, but they must have the knowledge of where that all came from and the struggle. And one of the things that did happen, I quickly remember, Ofek, when we rehearsed it and you said, no, my character, I could not, after I gave one of my big speeches about what I went through. I think originally you felt the character's lines were too harsh. He wasn't listening. And you said that, no, we're trained very early in Israel. I don't want to paraphrase you, but something to the fact about respecting the Holocaust survivors, that you personally. And so I think we may have, I don't know how you arranged that. I'm forgetting what the original lines were. So I hope that there is respect. They won't play Golda Meir no one wants to hear her story anymore because she lost, because 3,000 soldiers were lost, and that killed her in that war. So, we have a way in history of throwing out, of changing and not understanding the moment that something is happening. I hope Lilia's story that she's trying to tell of healing will happen, but I know it won't happen unless we argue. What is it my grandchildren say? Argue not to win, but to understand. And that would be nice, a beginning.
So, Ofek, I want to ask you, we just had a question from someone in the audience about generational difference. And what I loved in the scene that we got to see with you and Esther was the emergence of a deep conversation. And I think even as the two of you have described, your own thinking about the positions your characters are taking, it's hard not to see, an octogenarian survivor and a sort of millennial Israeli with his eyebuds on and with the technology and all that comes with that. Tell us about, what as a young Israeli, what it means to be having this discussion on stage. What's it like to be engaging with modern German theater and German culture, which is so powerful in not only in music but in theater and other realms that are frankly collaboration points today for many young Israelis.
All right. So first of all, I can say I've been more than 4 times in Germany, and 2 of them were during school sessions that we went to see museums of the Holocaust and then labor camps and stuff like that. And 2 times there, I just traveled for my own, and I can say that today Germany is like the best, one of the best allies to Israel, and I don't have any resentment no more, because even though I've been there and I met people who their grandfathers were soldiers or SS officers, and they are so ashamed, and I felt that they know what is the history, and they respect the history as we respect the history. They don't look like it wasn't matter or it's been in the past and that's it. So for a new generation, I can say that we and Germans are getting along really great. And for the second, what did you ask exactly about the young generation?
Well, I do think it how much of this play do you think represents a sort of a generational conflict that younger Israelis may see this differently than not only Holocaust survivors but people of that generation? Do you feel that this play 10 or 20 years from now may not have the same I don't know, tension around it?
It's a good question, because I think today, if you will, there is not that much Holocaust survivors living in Israel anymore. They are dying each year, unfortunately, and I think it will be very interesting to watch it in a few decades ahead, because educationally, less and less they teach about the Holocaust. You hear about the Holocaust, but I remember as a kid listening to my grandmother or my grandfather, and at school they brought people who were Holocaust survivors, and we listened to them. And as long as the year passes, so we don't hear that much of it. So we don't look at it as something that horrible. It was horrible, but not as I grew up. So I think it's relevant, and it will be more relevant because we can't forget that, and we must continue to teach about that, and not to be how do you say I forgot the name, like talking about it as it something very usual. It's not usual, and we should keep it that way. Casual.
Yes, casual.
I do want to ask Lilia, this play is known in Israel. People know about it, and it is, and the controversy over Wagner and the prior incidents with Daniel Barenboim and the attempts to play Wagner are certainly things that are part of the common knowledge, I guess, of people, and it often brings out the conflict, right? So tell us a little bit about what you, as the director, encountered when you decided to take this on, and did you learn anything new from the sort of broader conflict that either because, as you were describing, this particular time when there's a lot of partisanship and people you used the term echo chambers. And as I was watching the actors in their Zoom boxes, I was thinking about, we have literally been trapped in our own echo chambers in some respects. Do you think there's anything that you've learned about from this experience that is hopeful about how we're perhaps addressing or relating to these kind of conflicts?
Well, I've thought a lot about the layers of meaning in this wonderful piece by Victor Gordon. There is the nature of memory itself, and what do we actually remember? There is a nature of trauma and PTSD and how we deal with that and how do we heal. But there is a whole layer, to answer your question, of mythology. Esther's character, Annette, says, Annette's character, Esther, says at some point, we are different because not only it's based on our differences are based not only on completely different experiences, and not that we belong to different generations, right? So it is what we make. For me, and it's a discovery, it's something new that came through thinking. What we make of these experiences. People can have identical experience, but interpret it differently and create myths of their own lives. Wagner is a national myth creator. He's the creator of the national myth that went into creation. That's why he represents the German spirit, but it's a myth. It was Icelandic sagas that he based. They were not his mythology on. And ironically speaking, think about it, Herzl used and created the idea of the Zionist state because he was inspired by that spirit, by that music. And of course, the times were such that the idea of a national state in Europe and the idea of a multicultural empire, one was crumbling, another was being created. There is another myth. Wagner was never performed in concentration camps. I have researched this question and spoken to historians. There are examples that Wagner was played in Dachau in 33 and 34, but it was not, purely Jewish camp. It was it was a camp that was a correctional facility where Hitler dealt with his political opponents. He just came to power and took revenge on them all. But no, Jews were not allowed to play German music and perform Jewish composers, just like Jewish doctors were not allowed to treat German patients, contaminate them. So it's myth over myth over myth, but also we ourselves create myths. Meaning is constructed between the text, the objective reality, the experience, and what we bring into that. And this is big news. This is up to us, where we dig our heels or where we try to see the other side, the legitimacy of at least some of it. That's the discovery, like the philosophy behind it.
Well, Lilia,
A wish. I was gonna say-
and a wish, and Annette, I would say, in the spirit of your character, the triumph of spirit is one that I think many of our audience members from watching the clip have commented on that, and indeed, there is a battle here. As Ofek said, there are one can learn from both of the characters' perspectives. But there is a triumphant, I don't know, spirit to this. I feel that even if you disagree with one of or the other view, that understanding the role of great music and the connection to it of the Israeli people is something that is a part of the spirit of Israel today. It's not something that you can just sort of overlook. And so I think it's such an important production that you all created here, and really was a great opportunity to share with our audience, again, a more nuanced story, a more challenging story about the different layers in Israeli society where there is both conflict and disagreement and a desire to forge a society that is more empathetic and is more understanding of exposing wounds, as well as helping people heal from the many wounds that historically have been a part of the Jewish story, the Israeli story, the regional story. Certainly, that is part of the fabric of society. So we're actually past the top of the hour now. This is a show that many want to see the full production, and we will make that link available to people afterwards, just so people have the opportunity to watch the full production themselves and share it with others. We're so grateful to this group today for joining with us, all of the panelists. We are back on Wednesday. We've been doing this twice a week since the beginning of COVID and the restrictions. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll go south for the winter. For the Snowbirds, we'll be in Miami again for an interfaith discussion, multi-faith discussion on gratitude, appropriate for those celebrating Thanksgiving in the coming week, whether you're in Israel, the United States, or somewhere else around the world. Gratitude is something I think we can all really use some time for reflection on, and that'll be our next program. So thanks again for this wonderful production, and to everybody celebrating with us in New York, our 50-year birthday party this last week. We are giving our regards from Broadway and wishing everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving for those celebrating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.